It may seem that the story of you is chaotic. However, in reality, it is not. The more stories you pass through, the more likely you will be to piece it into one whole picture. Use every possible opportunity. The truth is somewhere close.
Hello, and welcome to My Name Is You, and it's the only unusual thing in my life. I'll be honest, I'm not completely sure what this story is about specifically, other than some sort of mystery. So, let's jump right in.
I suppose I will start at the very beginning. Chapter 1. Once upon a time, there lived you. Despite his unusual name, his life was hardly any different from others. It was an unusually usual day when he was getting ready to go to work. 2 hours of sleep. What a formality, he said to himself, glancing at his watch. He was used to working at night, just as he was used to never having days off. That morning, the buttons on his shirt were fastened faster than usual. This was not by chance. The tear-off calendar boldly declared Friday, April 3rd. It reminded him that there were only 3 work days before his holiday, and there was no room for mistakes. His room in a communal apartment was not very big, so it did not take him long to pack. Having got dressed, he quietly walked past the neighbors' rooms into the hallway. Somebody was snoring loudly in the furthest room, which caused you to smile for some reason. He walked up to the front door and accidentally stepped on a pile of letters. Picking up the envelopes, he saw his name on one of them. You automatically put it in his pocket and walked out. The thought that next Sunday, a huge stone would be removed from the entrance to the crypt of his existence by the power of labor legislation kept you going.
Oh, our first choice. Go ahead and read the letter.
Glancing at the address line, a chill went through Yu's body for a split second. From Darina. Yu was confused by the seal on the envelope, indicating the place of departure, No Leaf Grad. Is she really coming back to Cannot? Yu wondered. Dear Yu, my doctor's suspicions are confirmed. I have the same disease that struck you. I thought it over and decided that we need to break up. It may seem that things like that should bring people closer, but it would be unfair to myself. We can have our last date on the morning of April 3rd in the Seafront Cafe, and then I will leave Cannot and go abroad.
Okay, so it seems also the town names are kind of just general words. So I'm assuming it's just going to be some sort of theme. I don't know if there's anything with Darina right now, but it might be important to note that this game was originally in Russian, so maybe that affects the localization and some of the things, but we'll see.
He felt dizzy.
Ooh. Alright. We can either just go to work and continue as normal, or we can go to the cafe. Let's just go to the cafe, since my mouse was already there.
Although Yu suffered from excessive hypochondria, he really had an incurable illness. He clearly remembered the day when he heard the diagnosis. Since that moment, he stopped counting new birthmarks on his body. He seemed shaken up after reading the letter, but not surprised.
New birthmarks seems a little odd, because the word birthmark.
He tried to squeeze out a tear to see if he was still capable of showing emotions. Alas, he just welled up a little.
Oh no, he's like me a little.
You decided that it was because he had drunk a large amount of coffee, which dehydrated his already dried up body.
Well, I don't drink coffee.
Approaching the seafront, he tried to spot Dorina. It did not take him long to find her. There she was, at the cafe table. She probably had no clue how much he appreciated her starting the conversation. Usually, you are late.
Probably gonna get fired for this, but oh well.
I am tired. I hope you understand me. But he did not. Having overcome his anxiety, he squeezed out a handful of words.
I mean, it's interesting how they keep dodging what the diagnosis is supposed to be. Maybe the game would let us convince her, but she seems kind of set on it. Let's just agree.
He seemed to be ready for such an outcome and did not hold a grudge against her. Nodding goodbye to her, you hurried to work.
Also, yeah, we gotta get to work.
He was almost there when he saw his boss enter the office building. He took it as his personal failure, although his watch showed that he still had several minutes.
As I've heard people say, if you're not early, you're late. I guess.
You had barely got into the office when he noticed two male silhouettes behind him. He turned around and saw his boss and a man he had never seen before, a little further away. To avoid unnecessary explanations, you took a badge from his table and pointed to it. Yes, despite the fact that there was no live communication with clients, the work charter required to wear a name tag, probably to remember your name. Wow, that's a very unusual name. Nice to meet you.
In both senses.
It is the only unusual detail of my life.
Because that diagnosis and what we just did is totally normal.
An awkward pause hung in the air. The boss standing behind Frank frowned and cast a reproachful glance at you. Frank is our security guard starting today. Oh, we have nothing to. A security guard. Some of my important documents are missing. There are only two of us. What kind of documents?
In an office of only 2 people. That's definitely unusual, I'd think.
That I cannot tell you. You mean you suspect me? No, I do not. Eliminating any opportunity to continue the conversation, the boss turned around and went into his office. The room plunged into silence. You got down to some clerical work. You was sitting at his sturdy desk, imagining again and again how the shelves, stocked with books on jurisprudence, would break loose due to their own weight from friable concrete and break his head.
It's probably obvious by now, but this is going to be a lot slower, so hopefully you're willing to bear with me over time.
Allowing himself a little break, you took his diary from his table drawer and made a note. I never took a plate of soup at school lunches, even when I really wanted to. I was afraid to spill it in front of everyone. but I could put it on the table, which seems to be my life's pattern. Feeling some satisfaction from writing that, he resumed work. There was a rustle of the janitor's broom and the trill of birds outside the window. More accurate than the clock, you thought? Chapter 2. On the second day of work, every sip of coffee came out of his nose as blood. Covering his nose with his hand, Yu went to the restroom.
Oh, his nose is actually bleeding. Just phrased that a little weird.
Excuse me. I wish I could narrate a little faster and keep you from getting bored. But it is difficult in my condition.
Oh.
Let's continue. Returning to his workplace, Yu saw Frank sitting at his table and leafing through his personal diary. Such violation of personal boundaries, it seemed, was about to put Yu out of temper.
Are these kind of the same thing, or is this one a little more calm? Let's take the potentially calmer option.
Give it to me.
Here, take it. I was curious. In a moment, Yu hid his diary in the drawer of his desk. I am sorry if I offended you. The incident seemed to be over, but Frank's intrusive nature got the better of him. Can I ask you a question? Why does everyone in your notes die?
That's interesting. Some sort of Death Note situation, or is it him simply making a record of what has happened? I mean, I really want to know, but Protag would probably be reluctant to answer. But I'm more curious than anything, so let's answer.
Perhaps the lack of communication affected you. Unexpectedly for himself, he answered the question directly.
I'm not sure, but it seems to me that the desire to kill a self-protagonist in the text takes root in the desire to alienate the described situations from a real self.
What?
You said it as if he had prepared an answer to this question a long time ago. Or, at least he had thought about it before. Silence set in. Frank was embarrassed by his answer and tried to look understanding.
Well, more likely that it is just easier to kill.
The office phone rang.
Answer the call.
As soon as Yu came up to the phone, the ringing stopped. He barely returned to his desk when the phone rang again.
Interesting.
As soon as Yu came up to the phone, he barely...
Let's try one more time.
As soon... He...
Let's ignore it then.
The ringing bored into his skull. Yu was buzzing together with the receiver. Yu involuntarily took off, but his head started spinning, and he was seeing dark spots. Holding onto the railing, Yu slid down the stairs and jumped out onto the street. He ran into his boss at the door, who stood there smoking.
Go to bed now. You can give me the rest of the papers tomorrow.
He did not have any strength left to work anyway. Although he left some things in the office, Yu was not in a hurry to go back. He sat down on the doorstep to rest. His vision was not particularly keen on the second day, so it took him a while to recognize a familiar face. Yu livened a little. A welcoming grin appeared on his face.
Hi, Max. Why are you not at work? I dismissed my students a little early. How are you feeling? As usual, another night shift. If I was your father, I would have fired you long ago.
Huh.
What will you have left for me then?
Max answered with a question.
Do you want me to take your shift?
I thought he was working somewhere completely different. What? You can't just take people's shifts. No thank you.
No, thank you.
Yu quickly said goodbye and left. He heard some painful coughing behind his back, and his lips let out a grin of satisfaction. Coming home, Yu could barely stand on his feet. Notwithstanding his lack of sleep and fatigue, he could not fall asleep. The day flashed in his head on repeat. As for the breakup, he did not see himself as the victim.
Why would you be a victim? It's just a breakup. And it didn't seem like it was violent circumstances. It just seemed
On the contrary,
somewhat casual.
the entire time during his relationship with Dorina, Yu wondered,
Unless there's more to the relationship.
Why did she love him? Drained of all strength and weak in spirit from birth.
he did not anymore. Dizziness and pain subsided. At some point, he even thought about calling a doctor, just to make sure that he was still alive. But sleep took its toll. Chapter 3. The alarm went off. Yu faced a new day with weakness in his legs and a throbbing headache. All night long, he had been haunted by a painfully familiar nightmare. However, when he woke up, all tangible images dissolved, only leaving a nasty precipitate. His body led him to the kitchen in search of caffeine. Despite the early hours, he found his boss there.
Wait, so are we sleeping at work? Is our boss our father? Not really sure what all is going on here. But I don't think we're supposed
How
to
are you
yet.
feeling?
You heard the question, but ignored it because of his sleepy state.
How difficult is it to answer?
Yu was pleased to hear the words of concern, even coming that way.
I'm sorry, Father.
Yeah, okay.
A cup in Yu's hand inevitably filled with bloody coffee.
You look like shit.
Really?
I feel like it.
So we have nose bleeding problems, I think.
I do not want to lose my last son. Even someone like you.
My last son. So he's had other kids before that have died?
His father had his old wool suit on and was about to leave for work.
You do not have to go to the office today. Get some rest.
'Cause he said last son, not only son. I want to see what happens if we keep pushing. If you
You did
keeps
not tell
pushing.
anyone about this, but I am going to tell you confidentially. He believed that the disease manifested itself most fiercely when he went to bed.
I think there's actually a phobia of sleep, but I don't quite remember what it's called.
That was why you did not like sleep. His night fantasies became crazier with time. Every dream seemed to him a step closer to insanity. In order to control himself, he regularly looked at his hands and at the clock hands.
I wouldn't call it insomnia, because insomnia is essentially the inability to sleep, I think.
He walked out of the door and noticed a stranger near the opposite house. That stranger was an identical copy of you, as if his long-lost twin. You froze and watched him. The door was half open, and he saw a pretty girl and a little boy, probably the same age as the kid, behind it.
The kid?
The newly appeared copy of you smiled, said goodbye to his family, and disappeared.
Ooh. Let's be crazy. Let's spy on the double.
You decided to follow the imposter. He was filled with excitement and almost childish curiosity. Yu's assiduous attempts not to give himself away were unwarranted.
Does this font not allow for apostrophes?
His double had no intention of turning around. The pavement, the slums, the sound of the heartbeat of a whale. A straight path led them to the railway station. Suddenly, the second you turned back in the direction of the original, but the latter went unnoticed. The station was unusually empty. The double went to the counter and bought a ticket. You, without much hesitation, waited for a convenient moment and went up to the same window. I would like the same ticket, the same time. A heavy, apathetic cashier automatically held out the requested ticket without batting an eye. The ticket said 8 o'clock. The train was about to arrive. The double sat on a bench near the right track. You stayed at a distance, keeping an eye on him.
Now we're in
He
full-on
was so
stalker.
excited that the illness fell into the background. The train rattled in the distance. The double got up and walked to the edge of the platform. You came close to him, forgetting about precautions. Yes, he had decided to start a conversation. He was going to do it in the car, so that the double could not escape.
Yep, full-on stalker mode. Okay.
Before you realized what was happening, the double threw himself under the moving train.
Oh. But then why would you buy a ticket?
You
Why would you
choked
buy a
from
ticket?
horror. His feet seemed glued to the platform. Everything around him froze.
Okay, this might sound weird, but I'm glad we chose this route. Unless something even more interesting happens at work.
In a moment, hysterical screams of eyewitnesses pierced the frozen air.
But again, why would he buy a ticket if this is what
How
he planned to
could he
do?
have not noticed them before?
Somebody was killed. He pushed him.
Oh.
Get him! Train rattle squeezed out the last drops of sanity.
Did we accidentally push him? Or do
Blurred
it in a panic?
silhouettes, impregnated with human justice, surrounded you. Is this the end? The alarm went off. You faced a new day with weakness in his legs and a throbbing headache. All night long, he had been haunted by a painfully familiar nightmare. However,
When he woke up, all tangible images dissolved, only leaving a nasty precipitate. His body led him to the kitchen in search of caffeine. Despite the early hours, he felt...
How are you feeling?
You heard the question, but ignored it because of his sleepy state.
So the day started over.
How difficult is it to answer?
You was pleased to hear the words of concern, even coming that way.
That's new.
I'm sorry, Father.
A cup in Yu's hand inevitably filled with bloody coffee.
You look like shit. I feel like it. I do not want to lose my last son, even someone like you.
Again, last son.
His father had his old...
You do not have to go to the op.
Alright, let's try resting today.
Okay, I will try.
Even though it said earlier that Yu thinks it gets worse when he tries to sleep.
Yu went to his room and sat down at his desk. He took a pen and then remembered that he left his diary at work. Yu took some letters out of the drawer, which had not been sent for some reason. He took one of the letters and added a few lines to it.
Remember when grandfather made me listen to a rhythmic beat in the air? It is the heartbeat of a gigantic whale who swallowed our universe. And I believed him. What about you? You said it was just train wheels wobbling. So I decided that the whale had died a long time ago, which was better than it being just a fantasy. Do you understand? Asking you this is easy on paper because you will not answer me.
Is he talking to himself?
Adding those lines, he felt he had completed something important and allowed himself to take a nap.
Hopefully this is going to be one of those slow build, high reward situations.
Once he dozed off, he heard a knock on the door. Any unexpected knock on the door or telephone call could evoke severe paranoia in you. Because the knock on your door is louder and more alarming than on any other door. In a moment, there was rustling of envelopes slipping into the mail slot of the front door.
Let's check the mail.
Once he got up, his sleepiness was gone. Sorting out a stack of utility bills, you found a letter addressed to him. It was a letter from the sanatorium, where he had undergone treatment that summer.
Dear Mr. Yu, I am afraid I have to inform you that you were misdiagnosed due to a serious mistake on my part. Your disease has a closed form, and the possibility of airborne or droplet transmission is excluded. To put your heart at ease, you can follow the precautions recommended to you earlier. However, I assure you that your disease is only focused on you. Accept my sincerest apologies. Your attending physician, K.
So he was originally told it was contagious? And it turns out it's
It
not?
would mean little to a healthy person. But to you, the news turned everything upside down. The disease got quiet. That time it did not try to get out, having used you as a disposable case. It was snugly snoozing. You took a shower, washing away the fuss of the last days, and decided to go to work. You did not tell anyone about this, but I am going to tell you confidentially. He believed that the disease manifested.
Okay.
That was why you did not like his night fantasies.
This is the same.
In order to control him, you liked to alter his route to work every now and then. He would walk through the park, or that patio, or the arch, by which he used to run so often. All that in order to somehow distinguish between days. Otherwise, everything merged into one endless stream. He remembered that it was the last working day before the holiday when he came up to the office door. Entering the office, you noticed that Frank was not there. He grinned at that maliciously for some reason. He found a new batch of documents on his table. Pinning his name tag on his jacket, you got to work. The work did not take as much time on the last working day. He easily sorted out insurance files and, like a clerical deity, decided the client's fate, deciding who was to receive payments and who had mutilated himself with the purpose of deception.
So is this some sort of, like, death's office, or?
Having gone through most of the papers, he came across an extremely familiar storyline. Insurance form, life insurance, Form 42, fractures, serious illness, and death. Insurance does not cover self-inflicted injuries, self-inflicted infection, or suicide. Date of insurance, March 29th. Date of death, April 5th. Insurance sum, 203,500 coins. Salary, 15,000 coins. The client was an insurance agent who bought a train ticket, later to be found under its wheels. Witness testimonies varied. According to some testimonies, he was pushed down onto the track. According to the other, he stumbled. Since the gap between the date of insurance and the date of death was so small, there was a note in the file indicating a suspected suicide. All risks were borne by the office that makes the final decision.
Okay, so the doppelganger really did just jump or fall into the tracks on purpose, it seems, and died anyway. Unless both timelines are true. Given we saw it the first time, let's accept.
You confirmed the insurance payout to his metaphysical colleague. What guided him when making such a decision?
Oh wait, but it said the insurance doesn't cover self-inflicted. Okay, I didn't realize that's the kind of decision we were making. Oh, whoops.
Did it evoke his sense of justice, compassion, selfishness, or maybe shame? I am sorry. No, you do not have to answer. You completed his work earlier than planned. Satisfied, he carefully unfastened his name tag and put it in front of himself. A confusing question went through his head. What's next? It was Yu's first holiday, and it seemed he did not even plan what to do during the long-awaited vacation. He took his time to clean up his desk and went to his boss's office. He formally knocked a couple times on the door and appeared before his father.
Is there anything else to do?
Is there anything else I can do? If you have processed the last papers, then you need to fill out the statements. I already have. Wait, has your holiday just started? Look at the time. It is the end of the workday. You can go. I dismiss you. I will work some more.
Interesting.
As you wish. Take it easy on the coffee.
You took a folder with the statements and turned to leave. Fearing he might appear too soft, the father added,
I do not need a stroke here.
A satisfied smile flashed through Yu's face.
I know, Father.
Workaholic? Okay, is that really it? Alright, so after the credits are over, because I still want to show off the credits, right? I'll go back and see if there's anything that can be done differently. So I guess you'll know once the credits are over if anything is or not, but, I mean, there were parts that were certainly interesting, but nothing really happened. I think the whole purpose is to leave things up to speculation, right? But I don't know if it gives you enough to really speculate on, either. I do like this song, though, even though I can't understand what it's saying, at least, so there's that, I guess. Hopefully it's not copyrighted. But no, I mean, this game does seem like it was only made by one person. I'm not really sure what to think about it, honestly. I mean, I definitely wish that there was more, or at least some more things to speculate on. Because, once again, nothing, or at least not a whole lot, really happened. At least, to me. Maybe there are some things those of you who managed to make it this far could maybe piece together that for some reason I can't. Perhaps some background information you might have for some reason. So, yeah. As far as I know as of right now, that was My Name Is You, and it's the only unusual thing in my life. An alright story. Wish there was more. I'm just repeating myself now. Let's just let the credits finish. Okay, so welcome back to My Name Is You. I'm gonna go through it again and see if there's
I suppose.
anything different we can
Chapter
find.
Once upon it. Despite
I'm not
his
sure if this will all be in the same
It
video
wasn't-
or if I'll split it up,
Two.
but you'll know. Let's hurry to work this time.
The trip to work took him by several blocks. He considered early morning to be an extremely pleasant time of day. Universal euphoria. Although euphoria usually precedes inevitable death. As soon as he went into the park, he saw a kid in ragged clothes running away from a pack of stray dogs.
Alright, already very different.
His eyes caught a swiftly ticking clock hand.
Let's help this time around.
Even though Yu had been scared of dogs since childhood, he was going to run to the kid's aid. But the latter stumbled and fell down on the pavement, and the dogs lost all interest in him. Yu had nothing to do with the outcome of events, but he was filled with pride for his desire to help the boy that he did not even know. It made him come up to the kid, who was sitting on the ground with a bloody knee and a toothless smile, not because of the fall, but due to his age. Yu was about to give the kid a handkerchief with his initials on it when he noticed it had fresh traces of his own blood. So he just asked,
Can I do something for you?
Thank you, sir. I am okay. They did not mean to hurt me.
At that moment, Yu saw his boss in the distance and hurried to work, shouting a quick
Be careful.
over his shoulder. On the way to the office, the thought about how strange it felt to be addressed as Sir bounced around in his head. Although he had passed a 30-year-old milestone, he felt closer to the kid with a bloody knee than to Sirs of any kind, even the least important of them. You went up 3 flights of stairs and found himself on the top floor. It was the office of the insurance company where he worked.
Yeah, so we could infer that last time, but we just get it clarified here. Insurance
The door was
company.
unlocked. Was he late? He tried to walk in, but was stopped by a stranger. Wait! What are you doing? Before you could give a proper response to the cad, his boss came up the stairs, struggling to catch his breath, and did it himself.
Let him in.
They both entered the office, and the boss walked you to his desk, where he explained the situation to him in private.
That is Frank, my distant relative. He needs to do an internship, so he is going to work here for a while.
I'm gonna guess right now that if we want full information, we're probably gonna have to do all the routes. I'm not sure if I will or not just yet, but I'll definitely at least do 2 or 3.
As who? As a security guard.
To avoid any further questions, the boss turned around and went to his office.
An internship as a security guard in an insurance company, fitting in 2 rooms. Ridiculous. If I was blessed with a writing talent, I would definitely immortalize this,
You thought. You got down to some clerical work. You found a moment and took the morning letter out of his pocket. Glancing at the address line, a chill went through Yu's body for a split second. From Dorina.
Okay, so he does still read the letter.
Yu was confused by the seal on the envelope, indicating the place of departure.
Is she coming?
Suddenly, there was a curious voice saying, "Who is coming?" Yu did not answer and continued reading. Dear Yu, my doctor
This
says...
is the same. I wonder if that lets us branch on the same path as before. I'll skim it later. Let's just stay at work for now. Alright, so back to when Frank took the diary. Let's be more aggressive this time.
Yu gripped his diary and unexpectedly for himself pushed Frank to the wall, knocking a chair out from under him. The shelves above Yu's desk shook and fell on Frank, lying in a fetal position, covering his head with his hands. Yu did not hear the sound of the shelves falling. There was nothing but inner noise in his head. Engulfed with righteous anger, Yu stood over the defeated guard.
Oh, did we kill him?
The holes from the missing parquet boards under his head were slowly filled with crimson stream.
Okay, wow. So in that one, we just straight up killed Frank. Okay, so here we are back at the kid, and this time let's step back.
It was unclear what had made Yu so anxious. Fear of dogs, or of being late to work. He distanced himself from reality, refused to play any role except that of an outside observer. However, he had had no chance to interfere. The picture of the kid falling down on the ground, breaking skin on his knees, flashed before his eyes. Then of the dogs, losing all interest in him after that. Yu immediately felt nauseous. Everything went dark, and it seemed to him that he was looking at himself through the eyes of the kid, just like when he was a child. Deja vu! In order to justify his actions to himself, he took the handkerchief with his initials and handed it to the kid. Before the latter could say anything, Yu ran away to avoid further conversation. In a hurry, he went in the wrong direction, unaware of it until he ran into a locked gate on his way.
So did the handkerchief not have blood on it this time, or did you just not care?
He casually turned around and went to work. He was almost there when he saw his boss enter the office building. You barely got into the office when he noticed, figuring that they would.
Let me introduce myself. You.
My name is Frank.
And you?
To avoid unnecessary explanations, you took a name tag from his table and pointed to it.
Here we are when you finds the letter in his pocket this time. Everything was the same after we hadn't helped the kid, except it was like when we were late to work in the first playthrough. Our first route we did. Let's just go ahead and see what happens if we suddenly leave work this time.
It is uncertain whether he actually wanted to find her there or hoped for the opposite. One way or another, when he was in the appointed place, Darina was not there. However, he saw a familiar kid on the porch of the cafe's veranda. His injured knee was bandaged with a similar handkerchief with Yu's initials on it. Yu's mind was clouded. The kid handed you his own handkerchief.
What for? Keep it.
Your nose is bleeding.
Oh.
The kid occupied himself with a scab on his knee.
Alright, so yeah, this time we hurried to work, helped the kid, and we'll see what's different when we go back to the cafe.
You heard. It is uncertain. One way or another. All emotions left you in an instant.
So Dorina's not here.
He saw the kid on the porch of the cafe. The kid was looking at him, squinting in an odd way.
Why are you squinting?
I am not. I mean, I closed my eye on purpose. Go ahead, close one eye.
You covered his eye with his hand to humor the kid.
Feels strange. Do not open. I did it to remember about the mercy that life bestows on us.
But
You get used to having just one eye, and then it turns out you have another. Or here's another thing. Hold your breath.
okay, so here Frank asks why everyone in our notes die. Let's keep silent this time.
Frowning, you ignore the question of the self-styled guard. The office phone rang.
Okay, we know this doesn't do anything, so let's just ignore it. Alright, so this is when the Max person asks us if we want him to take our shift. So let's say yes this time.
They let me go. But there is still a lot of work to do.
Okay, I will talk to your father.
Don't you dare!
Max had a fit of grunting coughing, to Yu's surprise. Max tried to hide it very hard, but you noticed blood on his palms, which he quickly hid in his pocket. You decided to play along with his old friend, pretending that the latter had not given his secret away.
Is everyone here sick?
Max tried to quietly wipe the traces of blood with a handkerchief, the corner of which was still visible from the pocket of his coat. The handkerchief was way too familiar. It was Darina's handkerchief.
Interesting. Let's be confrontational this time.
What was that?
What do you mean? I have a cold. There have been droughts in my classroom for 3 days.
You looked at his own hands, counting his fingers. Boring, but quite expected. They were all there.
Odd. Why would you do that?
He was clearly weaker than his friend was, but, having lost control of himself,
He grabbed Max by the front of his shirt, which led to a clumsy brawl.
You didn't even ask about the handkerchief, you just went right in for it.
Max pushed Yu against his shoulder in an attempt to break away. Because of an insult or uneven stones on the pavement, Yu lost his balance and fell down, hitting the curb with the back of his head. As if examining a painting, Yu fixed his dying look on his fingers and counted them.
Oh, we did.
He counted them again and again.
Alright, so we just straight up died that time. So, let's ignore the handkerchief this time.
Yu said goodbye, refusing a favor, and went away. Coming home, Yu could barely stand on his feet. Notwithstanding his lack of sleep and fatigue, he could not fall asleep. The day flashed in his head.
Here we are at Chapter 3 on the insurance claim, and let's decline it this time.
Yu refused the insurance payout. What guided? Did he evoke his sense? His desktop got empty. Yet, he was dissatisfied.
Oh, I was skipping a little. Sorry.
He felt that he had missed something. Not knowing what to do with himself, he went to his boss's office. He politely knocked a couple times on the door and appeared before his father.
Can I go?
Can I go? I have processed all the papers. Taking the question as insolence, his father glanced at the calendar, then at the clock. You are dismissed. Not quite realizing what to do next, Yu paused to think. You can go. Picking up his things, Yu left the office. Was he really on holiday? As soon as he stepped over the threshold, his chest rattled like a moving train.
Okay, well, I guess we just go on vacation that time. This is Chapter 3, when the mail comes. Let's just continue sleeping this time.
It seemed to him that he had been tossing about in his bed, trying to fall asleep for several hours. He stayed awake, so he decided to glance through the delivered letters.
Okay, well,
He had already learned to enjoy his rubbery legs and dizziness. Looking through this, it was a letter from the Senate.
Dear Miss...
His legs gave. His heart pounded with the strength of a whale,
oh, I should
but
have
with the
skipped the last
speed of
one.
a shrew.
Basically said that he suddenly got positive.
He lay down on the bed, unable to withstand a rush of emotion. With an unusual smile on his face, he was staring at the ceiling.
So in this one it seems like Yu is actually happy that the diagnosis is false.
After a few minutes, he asked with horror, "A new chandelier?
What? Okay, what does that even mean? So here we are back at the cafe with Darina, and this time let's ask her to stay.
Do not go away. Let's try once more."
Too late. I have put up with my life for the sake of old age. Now, there will be no old age.
There
I
had
mean,
always been a gap of misunderstanding between them. He had embraced his illness long ago, and resignedly yielded to his ailment with a loud, "Make yourself at home." It seemed that he had become closer to his illness than to Darina. He got distracted thinking about himself and missed her meaning. Reflections on how to rebuild his life from the very beginning. He was not ready to renew his relationship with himself, so he mentally grasped at the crumbles of the past seeping through his crucified palms.
I am sorry. I have made my decision. I do not know why I arranged this meeting.
She paid for the bill and left. You froze in place, at first not daring to say anything, and then resigned himself to the role of a scapegoat thrown into the unknown. For some reason, he saw something noble in their breakup. You were sure that he went to work immediately after the meeting, but when he came to his senses, he realized that he was on an unfamiliar street, cloaked by dusk. Despite the fact that the street seemed to be deserted, he felt someone's heavy presence. Turning to a rustle behind his back, you impaled his chest on a knife, squeezed in the hands of a long familiar figure.
Greetings from the past.
Whether from pain or surprise, Hugh could not utter a single word. The murderer carefully took out the blade and laid your motionless body on the ground. Blood flowed through the cold mosaic of paved stones. The corners of Hugh's mouth spread into a smile.
Alright, so I'm going to assume that maybe Max killed us, but I'm not sure. That seems to be all the endings for My Name Is You. I did go back and see if there's anything I could do, and when I tried to look up the endings, I didn't actually get any results. So it doesn't seem like a whole lot of videos have been made on this game, so that's interesting. Thank you all for putting up with this game, if you did. I appreciate it, and if you didn't, well, first of all, you can't hear this, probably. But, fair enough. Alright, so that will be all for now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye. For now.